In this video we're going to look at my trades of the past week or so using the Dutch several teams spreadsheet, which is available on my football website betandlay.co.uk. Now I've traded these accumulators, and these were my profits of my last few trades, and they totaled 89.97 after commission payments. These were my only accumulator trades of the last 8 days, and so we'll have a look at the spreadsheet to see how I got my staking, and probably look at my lays in my account so that you can see that I actually placed those lays. These trades are not risk free. I've had some good luck this week with some nice results. Okay, we'll start by looking at last Wednesday's 4-timer. Here we are in the spreadsheet. These are my teams that I laid: Arsenal, Liverpool, Chelsea and Man City. Now all teams were winning when I laid them, and Liverpool were winning quite easily, so I didn't lay Liverpool at all, so I left their odds out. So these are the lays I placed, and if these 3 teams won, that was my liabilities of minus 15.41, but my 4-time with my bookie paid £30, so the difference was 14.59. so that's how I made my profit on that one. Now if I'd hit one loser, if one had got beaten, I would have picked up 19.59. I would have lost my tenner with my bookie, so I would have had a profit of £9.59 on that trade. Here are my lays in Betfair. There's Arsenal for £31.25 for liabilities £3.75. There's Chelsea for £28.93, liabilities of £6.08. And going on to another page, there's Manchester City for £29.41 for liabilities of £5.59, and those liabilities should line up with these. Now, Saturday's profit were described in the previous video that I used for describing the spreadsheet. So on to Tuesday's Champions League treble. I traded between Manchester United, Bayern Munich and Juventus. Now the Juventus game was snowed off just after half time. They played the other half of the game the next day, so just down to 2 teams left on the night. Now Bayern Munich went ahead by 2 early goals. They were leading 2-0, and I could have laid them for about 116, which would have been a reasonably cheap lay, but I hesitated and I didn't do that, and Manchester City equalised and then went on to win eventually by 3-2. While this Munich game was still at a score of 2-3, the Manchester United game was still at 0-0. So I decided, with these odds lengthening all the time, I decided to get out of the game and lay Bayern Munich, and I reduced that because we'd lost a team. The potential payout with the bookie would have gone down, so I decided to set that to 15, and I just laid Bayern Munich for £3.19. They eventually lost 3-2, and Manchester United scored really late in the game, so there was no point in laying those at that time. So I came out with my profit of £3.10. So what I should have done was laid Bayern Munich while they were winning 2-0, and then waited to see if Manchester United scored as well, and then laid them as well for a profit that would be less than maybe £10 or so that I might get out of my bookie. Now that this treble bet is just reduced to 2 teams. And here's my account in Betdaq. There's Bayern Munich there, and my lay of £3.19. After that experience with Bayern Munich, you might have thought that I'd learnt my lesson, but the next day I made the same mistake again, on Wednesday. Here's the sheet for that. I did a treble on some more Champions League games. my teams were Zenit, Chelsea and Dortmund. Now Dortmund scored 2 early goals and their odds went right down to 116 or something like that, so I could have laid them quite cheaply, but unfortunately I dithered about and I didn't lay them, and the team that was playing against them scored a goal and their odds went out again. Now eventually the other 2 teams, Zenit and Chelsea, got in front, but Dortmund, the odds for Dortmund were drifting, but Marseille, the team that Dortmund were playing, had a player sent off and the odds came down to 1.39. They'd been 1.4 before the kick-off. So at that point I decided to lay all 3 at those odds, and those were my lays, and that was my liabilities, that was my potential payout. So if all the teams won, I would have a nice payout, and if one of them lost, if Dortmund lost, I would have a profit of 13.24. And from what I remember, I think in the Zenit game, that became, the other team scored again, so that was looking like a loser as well. They were drawing, so I was looking at a very nice payout, but unfortunately Dortmund scored very late in the game, and I finished up making a profit of £13.16 from the successful lay of Zenit, plus minus those liabilities. So £13.16 minus my £10 losing bet with the bookie left me with a profit of £3.16. Now here we are in my Betdaq account again. There's my 8.42 lay of Dortmund. There's Dortmund there. That's another lay that I did of Marseille in the same game for another trade. There's my £24 on Zenit, my successful lay there, and there's my £1.70 loss against Chelsea. So those are the 3, 8.42, 170 losses and 24 successful lay. And there we are. So on to my 5-timer on Thursday. Now here are my teams: Betis, Dynamo Kiev, Lazio, PAOK and Tottenham. Now these goals are a bit slow coming in these games, but Tottenham got 2 early goals in, so I laid them straight away after the lessons I'd learned in the previous couple of trades. I laid them for £34.31 for a loss of only 69 pence if they won, which they did eventually. And Dynamo Kiev, they were losing 1-0, and then they pulled it back to 2-1 by half time. So and the other team managed to pull a goal back against Spurs. So by half time I had Spurs in front 2-1. Dynamo Kiev were also in front 2-1, I believe, but the other 3 teams were losing. So there was only 1 goal difference between the teams, my 2 teams that were winning, and all my other 3 teams were all 0-0. So I decided to go ahead and lay them all at half time, and these are the lays that I placed. Now I'll just put some ones in there so that we see what the liabilities were for them all. Right, I've put ones in for them all now. Look, set them all as a winner, and if they all win, my payout in Betdaq would be 45.67, but I would win 52.40 from my free 5-timer. It only cost me 36 pence. I won't go into the reasons for that. So if all teams won, I'd lose £45.67, but I'd win £52.40 with my bookie. So that's about a gain of about £7. Now if one of them lost, I would lose £16 on my whole trade, and lose near enough zero with my bookie. But That isn't what happened, of course. Lazio were beaten, Betis were beaten, and PAOK were all beaten. So I finished up with £42.81 winnings from my lays, and I lost virtually nothing with my bookie, so that was my profit. So I finished up with by the time I worked it all out, I finished up with a profit of 42.83 on that last trade. So that just finished off a very nice few days using this spreadsheet. Right, we'll have a quick look at those in my Betdaq account. So that's a successful lay of 1863, 1463 and 1630, and liabilities of 458 and 69 pence. Now here we are, you can see my there's 1863, 1463 and 1630, and my 69 pence liabilities for Tottenham there, and add those together for Dynamo Kiev, and they come to £4.55. I took slightly different odds there, so there's a few pence difference. Okay, thanks for listening and good luck with your trading.